Adobe actually had a very big week. They just announced some quote magical new generative AI capabilities across the Creative Cloud suite of apps. So there are dozens of new updates right now across many of Adobe's major products. So if you're an Adobe customer, go ahead and update your apps and check out what's possible when it comes to AI now within your apps. But one of the biggest updates is the rollout of Adobe's Firefly Image to model, which now empowers users to generate even higher quality images within Adobe products. Now, interestingly, the new model, like its predecessor, is designed to generate content that's safe to use in commercial work. It also has some new text to image capabilities. It has something called generative match, which allows you to generate new images in the same style of existing ones. You can also apply photo settings to generated images. So you can do things like adjust the depth of field, motion blur, field of view, just like you can do with a physical camera lens. And according to Adobe, this quote offers massive time savings for everyone charged with scaling up content production while also making sure it aligns with a brand's look and feel. On top of all this, Adobe also announced content credentials, which is an icon that will be embedded into the metadata of content created using Adobe AI. The icon will show you which AI software was used to create a certain image, as well as other information about the image. Paul, I mean, there's a lot going on here to talk about, but it seems like the overall trend right now here is that we're getting to a point where brands now have pro level creative capabilities, some of which appear to be legally compliant from a commercial perspective, like right within the tools they already use. Is that how you kind of viewed these updates?
Yeah, so I mean, the Firefly one, when it first came out, which wasn't too long ago, I think that was just a couple months ago. Was the quality was questionable. You could obviously get better outputs from Midjourney and other places. So we knew Adobe was going to continuously improve that. The reality is because they're doing this and adhering to, in theory, more laws and regulations around the training data and what they're using, it's probably not going to be on par with Midjourney and maybe even Dolly 3, but for most enterprise users, it's probably going to be the safer bet and good enough. Um, so I think that's one of the things here. Again, if you're an Adobe user, you're likely going to lean toward using these tools, especially if you're in a bigger enterprise, because now you don't have to go get approval for a new tool outside that maybe doesn't have the guardrails in place. So, from a privacy, security, legal standpoint, it's going to be a safer bet to go this route. And Adobe's not going to slack here. Like they're going to keep coming and innovating, keep improving, keep probably, I think one of the knocks on Adobe over time would be like you really had to learn Photoshop to use Photoshop or
Hmm.
Illustrator. Like it was meant for people whose job was to do that. For them to remain competitive in the future, I think they're going to have to go the route like we're seeing with Dolly 3, where really almost anyone, because they got to compete with Canva and Beautiful AI and like these other players, they're going to make design so easy. And so I think they're going to have to open up the possibilities for the average non-designer to go in and do a lot of the things that it used to take a professional designer. That's one of the shifts I see this happening, is really opening up access. The other thing that comes to mind is we talk about, I know in my talks when I'm out doing the public speaking, I'll say like 80% at least of what knowledge workers, creative professionals do will be AI assisted within the next 1 to 2 years. This is a really good example of why we believe that.
Hmm.
You're not going to be able to use marketing and creative tools that don't have AI in them. It's literally just going to be infused into everything to the point where you're not even going to know you're necessarily using AI technology. So that's obviously the route Adobe's going. It's just AI and everything. Like every feature is gonna be enhanced with AI capabilities. The content credentials is interesting. We talked a couple weeks ago about DeepMind and it was a Deep Sith. I forget what their tech was called, where they were trying to embed stuff. But I like the fact that we're seeing more progress being made, more companies working on the ability to quickly tell whether something is fake or not. What it was created with, and that's going to be essential moving forward.
So it also seems like the feature here we talked about where you can apply these photo settings to get different like camera effects and stuff is just one other validation of what we talked about with Dolly. It's another way of essentially giving you uh, prompt assistance. Is that what that kind of seemed like to you? It seems like there's a lot of assistive features in here to get more out of the tool. Again, without, I wouldn't know, for instance, anything about how to instruct this tool in a prompt, how to act like a physical camera lens.
Yeah, I've been playing around with playground.io, which I believe just rebranded to playground.com. I think Dharmesh Shah actually gave them the URL playground.com. I saw on Twitter the other day. Dharmesh has apparently been sitting on that URL for a long time. But anyway, playground.io gives you access to stable diffusion and a couple other image generation models. And when you go in and create your prompt, you can pick, they have like 12 to 15 templates that are more themes, and those themes have built-in prompts to drive a certain sort of output, like, you know, a certain look and feel. And so, yes, again, I think everything is going to continuously remove the burden of the user to develop the prompt. And the user is going to very quickly just say, this is what I'm going for. And then it'll kind of take it from there. So it makes total sense that Adobe would go in that direction, which again, I think opens up Adobe to way more users than it traditionally has had, because you won't have to have expertise necessarily in using the tools to do it. All you need is natural language.
So you had mentioned this kind of assumption we work under, that 80% of what we do as knowledge workers or creative professionals is going to be assisted by AI in some way. I thought it was interesting, as part of these announcements, Adobe just directly called that out and said, look, this offers massive time savings for everyone charged with scaling up content production. So could you maybe just talk for a second about, if I'm a marketer or a creative professional, and I'm like, oh, okay, all these tools I use now have AI, it unlocks some possibilities, it sounds like, that just previously were unimaginable.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen in every aspect. So, again, when we think about generative AI, we think text, images, video, audio, code, if you're into code. But really, it's text to anything, anything you need to produce. It could be product design, it could be storyboards for ads, it could be anything. And it's going to drive massive efficiency across all that within the next 12 months. So, I mean, I think in a lot of cases, that 80% is really going to be more about whether or not companies choose to adopt it. I think the technology will be there to where almost everything that we do can be AI assisted if we choose to use the tech that is available to do it. There's just going to be some industries where they're just not allowed to use this stuff, or the curve required, or the approval process required to get the technology through procurement, and then to build the processes to guide the users. Like in big enterprises, it may take a while, or in some industries that are slower to adopt, it may take a while. But I mean, I'm fairly confident within the next 12 months that if you chose to have AI assisting in pretty much everything you do, like for us as the Institute, we don't have those barriers. We're a small team. We can, you know, move quickly. I really struggle to imagine anything we're going to do within 12 months that AI won't be assisting us in some capacity. And that's without even being extremely proactive in finding it all. Like, we're not every week sitting down saying, okay, here's the 25 things we're still doing that have no AI. Like, we're not doing that. And yet we're taught as a team, anything you do that is repetitive, data driven, predictive, or generative, like those four variables, go find a smarter way to do it. And so I think we've just made it so that people have the autonomy to go and seek out smarter ways to do things. Like, I know you've been testing, you were testing, what was it, HeyGen, or 11 Labs just this week.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
hey, let's go test that. Like, so we just hear of the tech and it's like, let's go try it. And if we find a use case for it, like, let's infuse it in. Um, and so I think for organizations that have that mentality, like a true, I wouldn't say it's an AI first mentality, but like, we're going to be an AI emergent organization. We're going to find ways to be more efficient, more productive, more creative, more innovative in everything we do. That that permeates the organization. Like, everything we do, we literally think, is there a better way to do this? Anytime someone sees an inefficiency, you question the way you're currently doing and saying, okay, maybe I should go find a tool to do this. And so I think the organizations that have that mindset by fall of 2024, I mean,
Mm.
the tech's gonna be there to pretty much assist in everything you do. So again, I'm fairly confident that 80% within 1 to 2 years, because I just don't know what software exists 2 years from now that doesn't have AI in it. I don't know how you continue to function as a SaaS company without a major AI roadmap for your product.
Yeah, to that point about how our team approaches this, I'm always under the assumption that anything I'm doing in a given day can be done better or more efficiently with AI. And while it's not always feasible to, fire up a new AI tool, learn how to use it, I keep at least a couple of AI assistants alone or image generation tools open while I'm doing anything. And you'd be surprised, even small efficiencies, if those stack up to your point a year from now. I don't see how some of these companies on the other side will be able to compete with people that are using even some of these features across a wide range of use cases.
Yeah, and it's gonna be true in every industry, and that's like I think a lot of times people ask me, well, yeah, like, just talk about senior living, for example. So, I was that's the talk I was doing on Monday, and so you're talking to senior living facility owners, and it's not obvious in the services that they provide immediately. So let's say you're thinking about AI and saying, "Okay, how can this help our services?" It's like, "No, no, no. First, talk about your core business." Every business has marketing, sales, service, operations, HR, finance, legal. AI can help in all of those. So before you even think about the products and services you offer, just think about the function of your own company and you find the ways to do it. So many of the ways we're using AI aren't necessarily in the products and services we offer as an institute. It's the back office stuff. It's all these other things that we're using it for. And that's like every company in every industry can be thinking about their own business. The last step is sometimes the actual products and services you offer. So, for example, in senior living facilities, there's a chance that at some point in the next decade, Optimus from Tesla becomes a functioning assistant where it's actually in these facilities helping in some way. And
Mm.
now it's part of the offering. Um, One of the ones somebody told me about was like they were using computer vision technology for fall detection in rooms. Things like that where they're like, okay, this is actually now part of the service offering. But that to me is like, that would be amazing. But do the obvious stuff right now. Just get it into your meetings, get it into your doc development, proposals, grants, like whatever it is you're doing, go find ways to infuse AI into the business. Then focus on the service and product roadmap.